with a prayer and then, yeah.
Yeah. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karvavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya Kritau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah. Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyamvad Vyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha. Okay, so it's not a very, I haven't prepared it very formally. It's a very casual discussion. Please stop me wherever you want. And it's just an attempt to go through. It was a good revision for me, as Swami P keeps saying. To date, he still loves this text and he keeps reading it again and again and again. So if he can do it after 40 years of teaching, I think we can definitely do twice a year, if not more. So over to Tattva Bodh. So what's the meaning of Tattva? Tattva is essence. So any word, if you add tva to it, like manushyatva, it's humanness. So that nessness is the meaning of Tattva. So Tattva is that ness of everything. So Tat is that. So anything that is that, the essence of that is Tattva. So Tattva and Bodh is, it's very loosely translated as knowledge, but what Bodh is that when you know the ness of anything. So like you have Bodh of pot when you know the potness. So it's not a particular pot that you have the knowledge about, but in general, you know the potness. So you can identify any pot of any color, small, big, because you know the potness. So similarly, this Tattva Bodh is when you will know essence of everything. It is that understanding, that knowledge, that is Tattva Bodh. Oops. Yeah. So just a brief introduction. Our scriptures have 4 layers. So the first is Shruti, which is Vedas, which includes the Upanishads, and these were revealed. So they're not authored by any human being or even Devatas for that matter. Then second is Smriti. It is written by rishis to elaborate on Shruti. So if you don't understand Shruti, because Shruti comes in very concise form and it's not detailed. And now we have our Bhashyakar, Shankaracharya, who's written commentaries on them, so it's easier for us to understand. But when Ved Vyas did the categorization, it wasn't very easy to understand them. So Smritis are written, which are in the form of either Puran or Itihas. So the Puran, those stories may have happened, may not have happened, but they are more to explain the concepts, and Itihas is what happened. Then there are sutras. So whenever you come up with a philosophy, so you have to write what your framework is. So that is sutra. So for Vedantins, Brahma Sutra is the one which again Vedvyas wrote. He wrote it to refute Purva Mimamsa, which was written by I'm forgetting the name, Jaimini, and Jaimini was actually disciple of Vedvyas. So he wrote Purva Mimamsa, which is more on Karmakand based. But then Vedvyas realized, no, this is not what I taught. So he had to refute it. And he wrote Uttar Mimamsa, which is known as Vedanta. So these 3 together are called Prasthanatraya. So in Vedanta, we take Gita from the Smritis. So Gita, Brahma Sutra, and Upanishads, they constitute the Prasthanatraya. So if you have to belong to a Vedanta, like within Vedanta, we have different philosophies. Like we have Advaita, we have Vishishta Dvaita, we have Dvait, we have Shuddha Dvait, we have Achintya, there's another one. So there are 5, 6 main, but there are even more than that, Shuddha Advait. So if you have to say that it is a Vedanta, it should fit in the 3, the Prasthanatraya, and you need to write commentaries on all the 3. So Advaitins, they have Shankaracharya, who wrote on Upanishads, on Gita, and on Brahma Sutra. Now, where do these Prakaran Grantha fit? Why this whole introduction? Tattva Boddha is a Prakaran Grantha. You can call it as a foundational text, or Prakriya means a method. So using a particular process to explain these, you write a foundational text. So Tattva Boddha is a Prakaran Grantha. It's not part of the Prasthanatraya. But it definitely makes it easier to understand the Prasthanatraya once you know, because see, the Prasthanatraya, they don't go into any of the definitions. What is Sukshma Sharir? What is Sthula Sharir? But they use it left, right, and center. So that's why the importance of a Prakaran Grantha. So this was a very good list of things. What are the benefits of Tattva Boddha compiled by Swami P. So I'll just go through it. Jigyasa Nivritti is to curb the curiosity. Vidyanand Prapti is attainment of bliss. We all want happiness. And that the bliss that is unlimited. And then Partantra Nivritti. Partantra is slavery. When you're dependent on somebody or you're a slave to somebody. So freedom from that. Aghat Nivritti is removal of painful experiences. So we want Atyantik Dukha Nivritti. It's not that we want the sorrows to go away briefly. We don't want them ever to come back. And then Dakshata Prapti. Dakshata is skillfulness. So once you get this knowledge, the agitations stop, the diversions stop. So with focus, you can achieve anything with a lot more skill. So that's Dakshata Prapti. So these are the benefits. So I thought it's a good way to summarize why I'm trying to sell why, we should go into the full book of Tattva Boddha and not just few pages, but we'll see that. Because it's very beautifully written. I went through only few pages and I could see that it describes it very well.
Alpana, these are the benefits of ultimate realization, or is it of Tattva Boddha is nothing but realization in
Tattva Boddha is ultimate realization.
Okay,
yes.
Got it. Thanks.
So, whenever any text was written, it used to write Anubandh Chatushtay before writing the text. I mean, why should I read a particular text? I should know what's in it. So usually when we go to a bookstore, we go to the last page and see just the synopsis or, what does it entail? But in our scriptures or our texts, there is a term called Anubandh Chatushtay, not to be confused with Sadhan Chatushtay. Sadhan Chatushtay is one Adhikari part of it, but Anubandh Chatushtay has 4 things. What is the topic? So it needs to tell what topic will be covered. What is the prayojan? What is the benefit of reading it? And then the third is who's the target audience? Who's the Adhikari? Who's qualified to read that text? And then fourth is what is the relationship between the 3? If whoever is qualified, if he reads the text, what will happen to that? Not just the benefit that it arrives, but what is the relationship between them? So in this particular Tattva Boddha, subject is, yes, self-inquiry, Tattva, as we just discussed, essence of everything, knowing that. What is the purpose of study? To get to our real nature. Who's the target audience? So this is where that Sadhan Chatushtay comes in. So the Adhikari is one who is equipped with the Sadhan Chatushtay, and it will go into the details of what Sadhan Chatushtay means. And what is the relationship? That after reading the text, realizing the truth, that you become Brahman. Like after reading chemistry book, you'll not become chemistry. So that this relationship doesn't work everywhere. But in this particular case, you become Brahman, you become that Tattva. So that's why they describe what is the what is the relationship between them? So now, getting into the text. So this text starts with Mangalacharan. So there are three types of Mangalacharan. One is where you do Namaskar. So you do salutation to either your guru or any god or multiple or a combination of that. The second type of Mangalacharan is Ashirvad Roop Mangalacharan, where you seek the blessings that, you seek the blessings for the either completion of the book or, whoever reads it gets the real meaning with the intention with which the book is written, etc. The third is a Vastu Nirdesh Roop Mangalacharan, where you actually talk about the Vastu. Now, what is a Vastu? Vastu means Vaha Tu, that which is always there. So the only thing that is a Vastu is Brahman. So if you talk about Brahman in Mangalacharan, that is known as Vastu Nirdesh. Nirdesh is the text indicates towards that, because it cannot be directly pointed about, but it indicates towards that. So in this particular one, in this particular book, we have Namaskar Roop Mangalacharan. And the author bows down to, he uses a very interesting term, Vasu Devendra Yogindra. So Vasu means where everything has a vas. Vas is everything dwells in that. So something which was first there, in which everything dwells, is known as Vasu. Dev is effulgent beings. We call all Devtas. So they are the Divya beings. And Indra is king of them. So king of the effulgent beings, who's the foremost, who's the one before everything, that Vasu Devendra, then Yogindra. So yogis are those who have this knowledge, people with this knowledge. And yogis are those, Indra of those, meaning king of those. So that is the one they are doing salutation to. The foremost one, who's the king of yogis, the devas. And after saluting them, the guru, what type of guru? Which gives the jnanam. For them, for the benefit of all those people who mumuksharthaya, means who want liberation, who are seeking liberation. So for their benefit, Tattva Vivek has been presented. The Vivek is discernment of that Tattva, that essence of everything is being presented. So that's the Mangal Shloka. The text is, so there's one shloka and then rest of the text is actually not in a shloka format or anything. It's just a text, but it's very beautifully written. So I thought I'll just go through at least the first one. So then it starts going into, we did the Anubandha Chatushtay. First is Sadhan Chatushtay. The seeker needs to be qualified, should have these qualities. So there are Sadhan Chatushtay. As it is Chatushtay, there are 4 things. So first is Vivek. Second is Vairagya. Third is Shat Sampatti. And fourth is Mumukshutvam. Then it goes into the detail. What are all these? So Vivek is discernment between temporary and permanent. Actually, it's not a discernment between right and wrong. It is not even discernment between right and not so right. It is the discernment between Atma and Anatma, the permanent and the temporary. So that is the Vivek that one needs to have, that only Atma is Nitya, rest everything is temporary, and rest everything hence is Mithya. Because the definition of Sat is, it doesn't have space, time, item limitation. So it has to be there always, and it was always there, it is there now, and it will always be there. Anything, what we see around, it appears to be there now, but it's not going to be there forever. Hence, it comes into the category of Mithya. So anything other than this Sat is Mithya. So Atma, Anatma, Vivek is the one which is spoken about as the first qualification. Then the second qualification is Vairagya. Vairagya is virag, without rag. Rag is attachment. Rag is likes. So without any likes and dislikes, that's the literal meaning of Vairagya. And what the way it has described in this text is any bhog. Bhog is any desires for experiences in this slok or in parlok. Because I think we people don't talk about that, think about Swarg and other things that much because we don't believe, we are not even sure whether they exist or not. But, you know, think of the times when, you know, everybody did think Swarg is a real thing. So asking for those bhoga in this slok or the other lok, being devoid of those desires, those bhoga is what is known as vairagya. Now, vairagya can be of two types. One could be because you see dosh, you see something wrong in it. Like you may get vairagya from sweets because sweets are not good for you. So you may eventually reason it out and say, oh no, I don't want it because it is not good for me. But we've all seen it. You see the sweet in front and you'll say, maybe I can have a little bit, you know. So that's not real vairagya. It tends to come back. Sometimes it may come back with vengeance as well. So because it bottles up and then it explodes. The vairagya that we are talking about is by mithyatva darshan. So what we did in Vivek leads to vairagya, that everything we see around is mithya. So that's why the importance of having Vivek. If vairagya is not happening, that means we need to focus. If our Vivek is strong enough, if we are convinced about it, we are logically understand it, etc. So the second type of vairagya, which is by seeing the mithyatva of everything, the impermanence of everything, by seeing that it is just, you know, superimposed, it appears only, it's only an appearance. The vairagya that happens is longer lasting. So that's the vairagya it's talking about. Then third is the Shat Sampatti. So Shat Sampatti actually includes 6, but they go hand in hand with each other. It's very difficult to just have one and not have others. And hence it is considered as one item. So the 6 are Sham, Dam, Uparam, Titiksha, Shraddha, and Samadhan. So Sham is control of mind. Now, control of mind means that the mind is available to you and it can be used where you want to use it. That is control of mind. Normally, the mind runs wherever our likes, dislikes are, or some thoughts come there. So the definition of Shama is that mind is available to you to use where you want to use it because it is your instrument. So you should be able to use it how you want to use it. So that is Shama. Second is Dam. Dam is control of Indriya. So Indriya here means the 10 organs that we have for the experiencing and for actions. So here, these are the ones which interact with the external world. So controlling those sense organs that they don't run after their objects. Now also you can see that all of these things will come quite naturally if we are established in Vairagya. So the thing with the sadhan chatushtai is if you feel that you're struggling with any one, you go to the previous one and make that stronger. So if Shamadam is not working, that means Vairagya is not there. Because once Vairagya is there, it's very easy to control the sense organs, not to run after them. That doesn't mean you don't experience anything or you shut yourself up. That's not the point. If it comes, you're fine. If it doesn't come, you're fine too. So that is, the second one is Dam, which is control of sense organs. The third is uparam? Uparam means to bring it back. Uparam is to withdraw back and establish it in yourself. So the way it is described here is Swadharma mein lauta lana. And what is Swadharma? Swadharma is what our real nature is. To bring it back to that is Uparam. So in Dam, you control the mind and the mind is available. In Uparam, you engage that mind in self-analysis or in self. So that is Uparam. Then fourth is Titiksha. Now, Titiksha, forbearance, doesn't mean that you go and try out. If it's a hot day, you lit a fire and sit next to it. Can I do that? No, that is not Titiksha. But Titiksha is that what is naturally coming, you go through that. And instead of the mind running after, what the situation is, you engage the mind in the Shastras. That's how it's defined in this particular book, which is quite nice, that you forbear whatever adversities come, but don't go and seek adversity, and engage your mind in the Shastra. And then comes the Shraddha. Shraddha is having faith in Guru and Shastra. So, because Guru is the one who would explain to us what's written in this Prasthanatraya, it's very important to have faith in the Guru and, of course, the Shastras, because they're the one. Why Shraddha is so important? Because what we are talking about is not a subject of perceptions. Brahma is not what somebody can bring and show it to you. Then it would have been much easier. Like what we do in science, it's easier to explain because you can show it. You can conduct those experiments, you can showcase it. It's a repeatable process. But here, Shastra is the only praman which tells us about some of these things to begin with, so that if we have faith in that, we will get into it to assimilate it, to actually, again, all these words they can't be used, but for any better word, experience it, understand it, because it's not even buddhi or man ka vishay, so you cannot even intellectually understand it, but you will grasp it. And that's why that initial definition of bodh, where you know the ness, the essence of everything, that essence has to be grasped, or as Swami P keeps saying, claimed more than anything else. So that Shraddha is very important, because this subject is not which can be shown, which can be read, which can be actually narrated, but it is always just pointed or indicated. We have to get it ourselves. So that's Shraddha. And then the last one is Samadhan. Samadhan, in normal Hindi, we use its solution. So what is the solution to everything? It's so one meaning is solution. The other meaning is Adhan of everything. Adhan is where everything is placed, being there. So having your focus on that Brahman is Samadhan. Having that ekagrata, that single pointedness with which we will get there. So this is the adhikari who will have Vivek, Vairagya, and the Shat Sampatti. And to sum it up, even after you have this, you need to have that intense desire for liberation. You need to have that intense desire to come out of the cycle of birth and death. You need to have that intense desire. I want to know myself. That has been described in the Upanishads. The way it is, I want to get it. So that intense desire is required initially, but once you know it, you will know that there is nothing to get, but it is always there. That's a different story. But to begin with, as a sadhan chatushtay, you need to have that intense desire for liberation, for self-actualization, self-realization, enlightenment, whatever you want to call it. So that's the fourth one. So these are the four qualifications that we need to have. The good thing is we don't need to have 100% of them. Just a little bit till we have the mumukshutvam is good enough. And after that, we can get on to the actual study of what the text has to say. Any questions so far? All right, just continue. Okay. So what is this self-knowledge that we are talking about? What is this Tattva Vivek? What is this Tattva Bodh that we were talking about? So when I said Bodh, when we know anything, so we know the potness, but to know the pot itself, how do we know anything? Just, okay, taking the example of knowing through the eyes. Whenever we see any object, say a pen, the antahakaran goes out through the eyes, because for seeing, eyes are the instrument. So whatever is the instrument that we have, the mind, the antahakaran actually goes out from the eyes and it envelopes this. So it takes the form of this. That's in case of when we see anything. But imagine when you're hearing something. So there's no form of shape, right? But in case of Tattva Bodh, what is the meaning of Bodh that will happen? So when the Antahakaran Vritti will take the shape of Brahma, so Brahmakar Vritti will happen. That is when the Bodh will happen. So it is not a Bodh that will happen in the intellect, even though we do need Antahakaran to take that form. And how will it take that form? When we study what this Brahman is. And when it takes that shape, normally when it takes the shape of a pen, our Antahakaran is Jad, so it cannot know the object. So it needs help of the reflection of Brahman in it, the Chidabhas, for it to know. Because when we say Atman, it is Sat, Chit, Anand, right? So Sat we discussed is it has no space, time or item limitation, and the three differences it doesn't have: Sajatiya, Vijatiya, and Swagat Bhed. So the limitations are very clear. It doesn't have space limitation, it doesn't have time limitation, it doesn't have any item limitation. That the truth is not limited to a particular object. It is not limited by time. It is always there, eternal, and it is not limited by space, that it is in India, it's not in outside world, it's not there. It's not the truth if it is limited to a particular place. The second definition was it shouldn't have the three bhed. The Sajatiya bhed, it's not that it's a species, within a species, there's one truth. No, it's not even that there are multiple species and each one of them have one truth. No, and there is no that it doesn't have parts. Swagat bhed is it doesn't have, like we have hand, legs, eyes. So there are parts to it, but truth doesn't have a part, because the moment you have part, it will be limited by space. So these all are interlinked, but that's the full definition of Sat. Now, what is the definition of Chit? Chit is something that knows itself and it knows others too. So it came into that context of both, is that a jada vastu, inanimate thing, even our mind is inanimate, it is not capable of knowing anything by itself. It needs the help of the Chit part of Brahman. Now, Chit also directly cannot show it to us, because we belong to two different levels of reality. Only things in the same level of reality are sadhak and badhak. So to give an example, the mirage water cannot quench our thirst, because our thirst is in Vyavaharik Satta and the mirage water is in illusionary reality. So the transactional reality and these realities are different. Similarly, the Chit of Brahman is in absolute reality and our mind object are in transactional reality. So the reflection of that when it falls on the Antahakaran is what makes us know. So the example given is, if you have different pots with water, you can see the reflection of the sun in them, right? So it's the reflection which is then is known, and when the water shakes, it's the reflection that shakes. So our knowing and not knowing is because of that. Because in our context, when we call it as knowing, it is at the transactional reality level. So this knowing is different from the Brahmakar Vritti. Because in Brahmakar Vritti, the mind takes the form, but the mind is incapable of knowing the Brahman. But it is the Brahman which is self-shining, it's Swaprakash. So it shines itself and the vritti drops. So vritti only has the relevance or importance in taking us till that step. So that is the knowledge.
Hey,
So that was,
Alpana,
yeah.
can I pause you? I think
Yeah.
it's getting intense. It already started getting intense. A simple one is explain the word vritti, please, for us. And the second one is you started explaining how when we are seeing a pen, our antahkaran envelopes the pen and it is a shape of a pen. And then you were talking about the antahkaran takes the shape of Brahman itself. Uh, my first reaction was we were always told that there's no shape or form for Brahman itself. So, what is it that we are talking about when you say the Antakaran takes the form or shape of Brahman? Was the other this thing? And then I think you went away from that point. I just thought, if you close that section,
Yeah.
that would be good.
So
Yeah.
So vritti is modification of mind. That antahakaran which goes out and takes a shape or a form when it modifies, that is a vritti. So any knowledge happens with a vritti only. So our vritti has to take the shape of that, whatever that knowledge is. And that's where I was explaining, in case of a pen, because it has a shape. So it's the example to explain that the antahakaran vritti goes out from the eyes and takes the shape. When it comes to sound, there's no shape, but antahakaran takes the shape of that sound. So shape is just a word I'm using because that's what they use, Brahmakar. Brahmakar doesn't mean that it takes the shape. And that's why that example of the even
Sound.
smell.
No.
Smell, there
Okay.
is no shape, but it takes the form of that smell, and then it's illumined by the reflected consciousness to know the smell. But in case of Brahman, there's no reflected consciousness required. See, if mind was capable of knowing Brahman, then the mind takes the shape of Brahman, and then the reflection would have illuminated that thought, because that thought itself is not capable of knowing. But because just in case of Brahmakar Vritti, we don't need that reflected consciousness, because the Brahman takes us this close to Brahman, even though Brahman is everywhere. But because the mind is so agitated and always busy with something, that's why that importance of that last samadhan, that focus, that ekagrata, that the mind has to focus, think about just Brahman, and it'll take its shape. Because when I say shape, it's not a shape, but
Right.
that concept. It'll
Right.
envelop that concept. And then the vritti will just drop, because Brahman is self-knowing. It is Swaprakash, and just Brahman remains after that. So the vrittis work. Vritti is required for all knowledge, whether it is knowledge of any object, sounds, touch, anything. But in case of Brahmakar, also that vritti is required. But once we get that Brahmakar vritti, the vritti drops and only the Brahman remains. So that's just the little difference. So
Okay. Can I just
yeah,
persist a little bit more if you don't mind?
yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah.
Antahkaran is four things, right? Manas, Buddhi, Ahankar, and Chit.
Chitta.
Chit,
Yeah,
right?
we'll get into the detail of that. And I just want to pause you there that it's not four thing. It is one thing which is functioning. It's like you being father, son. So the role you play, you are known by that upadhi. Similarly, antahakaran is one thing, but it has four functions. So when it is doing the intellect work, it is called intellect. When it is doing the sankalp vikalp, it is called the manas. When it is remembering something or doing the chintan, it is called chitta. Yeah, but
Okay.
that part will come. So it is not, yeah. So, okay, sorry, go ahead. But I just wanted to say it's not four things, it is one thing.
Okay, it is one equipment, let us say, right? It is one equipment
Yeah.
which takes this four form. Uh, yeah, you mentioned something about reflected consciousness.
Mm.
I just wanted to understand where reflected consciousness comes with respect to antakaran when we recognize an object. You said the antakaran itself takes the vritti or shape of the object or whatever it is,
Yeah.
right? It is,
Yeah.
let's just stick to the pen, right? Then where
Correct.
does reflected consciousness come into play is what I'm trying to understand.
So when it takes the shape, it still doesn't have a way to know it because it is inanimate. A jada vastu cannot know anything. So it needs the consciousness. So where does it get the consciousness from? That is the reflected consciousness. Similar to the sun's reflection is not formed everywhere. The sunlight is there everywhere, but we see the reflection of sun only where it is water or mirror. So it needs to be a special
The
type of surface.
medium.
So
Oh,
similarly, the antahakaran is satogun pradhan and hence it is capable of reflecting the consciousness. So it helps in the knowing. That
no.
reflection is the one which helps us in knowing.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Kishore has his hand raised. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking if you were to compare this, where let's say with a robot or a computer that has sense organs, right? Let's say it is able to infer sound and has a camera to infer imagery. It is able to convert that imagery into something else, right? But then there's nothing to then view that, right? Nothing to see what has been generated inside it because there's no reflected consciousness there, right? It is generating, doesn't mean that it is not generating, it is there. However, there's nothing to now know about it. Is
If
that
you
a
can
way
write the
to?
program which will do the analysis, it will say what the object is, all of that can be done with the machine learning and all of that now. So that will still be reflected. I think what you're referring to, that I know, that is added by ahankar.
Okay.
So reflected consciousness is like electricity. So the ahankar part is the one which says, I know this. That is also a part of ahankar.
The
So
vrittis. Yeah,
reflected
that is
consciousness, I think in your particular example would be the electricity, which is helping us to
okay.
everything else. Yeah.
Got it. Thank you.
Ahankar is the one which will say, I know this.
Right.
Or yeah. So that's
And
again,
you said reflected consciousness is also part of antahkaran?
no. So antahkaran
Reflex.
is the medium which is capable of reflecting. Reflected consciousness is like the electricity which enables the apparatus.
Okay.
So apparatus is the undercurrent and reflected consciousness is more like the electricity which enables it to work, to know, to see, or yeah.
And you call it reflected consciousness specifically and not consciousness itself.
Because consciousness itself, and that's why I was trying to explain, I think probably we should do that another time, that because they don't belong to the same satta. Only the same satta things are
Okay.
sadhak and badak.
Okay. Not the same reality, not the same
They
reality.
don't belong to the same reality. That's why Brahman,
It
I always say, is the couch potato. It cannot do anything. It just doesn't do anything.
okay, okay.
Yeah.
Hey, Alpana, this is Raj. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I just wanted to, sorry to interrupt you. The reflected consciousness, at death, it goes away, right? It doesn't reflect anymore because all of the components of the mind are gone, right? They are traveling to the next, where the reflected consciousness can conduct the electricity in another being, maybe, right?
Yeah, so it goes with the antahkaran, right?
It goes with the antakaran. Okay, yeah.
So yes. I mean, this body is left without anything. I think it'll come in the Annamaya Sharir. Yeah, when we'll do that.
Yeah, yeah. Hey, thank you for that. And the way I am trying to understand it from your explanation is that going back to Uday's question. So I see the pen. The I that I just mentioned is the Ahankar I. I see
Yeah.
the pen.
Yeah.
But I need to know it is a pen which uses. So I, the vritti goes and envelops it, comes back into my antakaran.
Yeah.
But I still cannot know fully that it is a pen until the enables me to know it as a pen.
Chit.
Correct?
Yeah. So it's first time when you know somebody is pointing it out to you. So they'll tell you, then you'll know the penness, right? So that's where we moved from the penness, if you want to see the pen, from potness, when you want to see actually the pot. This is the process. So similarly, when you hear about Brahman, so you'll know the Brahmanness, but to get to that Brahman, that Brahmakar vritti is required.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay. So this Atman is Sat Chit Anand. So we did Sat and Chit, and then what is Anand? Anand is the bliss. Some places it is also known as Anantam, which is limitless. So there is no limit. There is nothing which is outside of it. It is Anant. So it is just the bliss, because anyway, there is no second. So who will give us any pain? And there is nothing which is outside we can ever desire. So it is the Anand. Now, even if we read about it, we still don't get it. So there are usually three problems. One is mal. Mal is impurities, which are also papam done by us in different this thing. So which are crowding or clouding the mind. Yeah. So that is impurities. Those are removed by karma. Then the second is vikshep. Vikshep is agitated mind, and that is solved by upasana. And then the third is avaran, our own bod, our own self is covered by agyan, and that agyan can only be removed by gyan. So there are three problems and three solutions. Now in karma, there are four types of karma. Nitya karma, naimittik karma, prayashchit karma, and one more, nitya naimittik, prayashchit, and nishidh. So anyway, nishidh karma, we don't need to do. Nitya karma, we should still do, because nitya karma are the one which are for shuddhikaran. So when you do them, there is, when you do them, you'll get the punyam. If you don't do them, you'll not get any papam, but you will not get the punya of shuddhikaran. Now, naimittik karma is to do it with a specific desire in mind or specific objective in mind. So those are also for shuddhikaran, they're not required. They are driven by any desire, etc. Similarly, prayashchit karma are if any of the, some of the papas that are there which are bothering us too much, they can be done. So I think this is just to give a little bit of that nitya karmas are required for impurities. And other than that, since we cannot be actionless, so all our karma should be done with nishkam bhavna, and that is where the whole concept of karma yoga comes. So malla nivritti is through karma yoga, through nishkam karma. The vikshep mind is tamed by doing upasana, and the agyanam is removed by jnanam.
Alpana, question.
Yeah.
So the Nitya Karma, the way that you are explaining it now, does it mean that these are different for different individuals based on, and if so, based on what?
So Nitya Karma usually includes, taking bath every day, shaucham, etc. Those are the things which are actually, Sandhya Vandanam is also included in Nitya Karma for some. But I think very basic one is the Nitya Karma, to eat, to be clean, to be hygienic, to do a little bit of exercise. I think more of yam niyam type. So those are the Nitya Karmas. So I think what you're referring to is more going into the duties based upon the role, etc. So I don't think it's related to the antahakaran shuddhi part, right? So those we anyway have to do wherever things are required. So they can be varna based, ashram based, because they're all different types. So based upon the varna and ashram, you have different duties. Yes, but they will need to be done so that you have a peace of mind to do your swadhyaya, etc. So that's my take usually on those karmas. Yeah.
Thank you,
And,
Alpana.
yeah, and sorry, it was nitya karma, naimittik karma, kamya karma, and prayashchit karma. So kamya karma are the one which are done with a particular desire in mind, and naimittik karma are those which are done specific event, like during eclipse you need to do certain things. So those are naimittik, or shraddh karma, etc. They are part of the naimittik karma. So I think what the focus is, the nitya karma is the one which will lead to antahakaran shuddhi, to do that. Yeah. Okay. Okay, now, so we spoke about the self a little bit, but how do you reach that self, or how do you assimilate, or what is the process by which you understand what this Atma is? So if you look at various Upanishads, there are three things which are used. You either do 3 body analysis, the Sthul Sharir, Sukshma Sharir, and Karan Sharir, or you do Panchkosh Vivek, the 5 sheets, Annamay, Pranamay, Manomay, Vigyanmay, Anandamay Kosh, or the 3 states, Jagrat, Swapna, and Sushupti. So these are the 3 prakriya with which you identify that Atman is none of these. Atman is the one which enables them, which is through and through all of them, but it is separate from that. So then the text goes into all of these. We'll just briefly go through them. So 3-fold bodies, the Sthul Sharir, Sukshma Sharir, and Karan Sharir. Now, what is the Sthul Sharir? Actually, 1 minute. Yeah, so let's go through the slides, because it will go through the creation process. So before we get to the Sthul Sharir, let's go through the creation process itself. So for the creation process, it brings in the concept of Maya. So there is Brahman, and then there is Brahman's Shakti, which is Maya, which is Trigunatmika. It has 3 gunas, Sat, Raj, Tam. Now, the Shakti cannot exist without the Shaktiman. So the power cannot exist without the one who possesses the power. But the one who possesses the power can exist without the power, or what it can say is in the unmanifested phase. The power doesn't need to be. Yes, Srini.
Sorry, this creation process is the Sankhya philosophy used, right, in Tattva Boddha?
This is the Taittiriya Upanishad one.
The Taittiriya Upanishad means
it's slightly different from Sankhya, but it uses quite a bit of Sankhya, yes. Because the only difference is Sankhya says first the Mahat Tattva comes, then the Ahankar comes, and then the elements will come. Here, this is using Taittiriya Upanishad, where the elements come first. And then
so the
everything
24
else.
building blocks.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
So they will come from the elements. So they, the 24 elements, which include the Tanmatras, yes. So,
okay.
So first is this Maya. Maya is what? Maya is also known as avidya, because it goes away by the vidya, by the gyan of the Brahman. And it is also known as Prakriti, which is the Trigunatmika, it has Sat, Raj, Tam. Now, this Maya, it first creates Akash, it first creates actually the Shabd. Shabd is the Tanmatra. So there are, if I have to describe the 24 elements that Srini was saying, so there are 5, you can call them attributes, you can call them gun, you can call them Tanmatra, which is the Shabd, Sparsh, Roop, Ras, Gandh, the sound, touch, form, taste, and smell. So these are the Tanmatra. So these are the qualities. So first came the Shabd, and that is where, you know, the whole concept of the Anahat, Omkar, Nad, that happened first. So that is the Shabd. From the Shabd came Akash. So Akash is the, so this is talking about the creation of 5 elements. The first element, Akash, its guna or its nature is Shabd. Then from this came the touch, and from touch came Vayu. So now Vayu has, because Akash is the cause of Vayu, Vayu inherits the gun of Akash also. So Vayu has sound and its own unique sparsh. Similarly, then Tej has sound, it has sparsh, the heat, and then it has its own form. And then water will have the Shabd, the coolness, the Shitalta of the sparsh. Then it has form, you can see it, and it has its own taste. And then the Prithvi has all the 5, the Shabd, Sparsh, Roop, Ras, and its own Gandh. So this is how these elements are created. I was going to say something about, yeah. So Maya is the first cause. So you cannot ask for causation outside of Maya. So you cannot say what is the cause of Maya, because the moment you accept causation, you're already inside Maya. Maya is the cause. So Maya is also known as Desh, Kal, and Karan. So space, time, and causation. Now the space is not the Akash element we are talking about. When you have to create anything, you need space and the time has to start. So that's why Maya is known as that space, time, and causation, because with that Maya, all these 3 things start. So if you ask that Desh was there already before Maya, then what's the cause of Desh? So you'll go into that infinite loop. So it all comes with Maya. So this Desh we are talking about, the space we are talking about, is not the Akash. Akash is one of the element which is generated or projected by Maya. So first these 5 elements came. These 5 elements are subtle elements. Now,
Sorry,
because,
Alpana, can I interrupt you? So we're talking about these 5 elements right now, right? And the question that I have for you is, in this model, Taittiriya Upanishad, that's coming up in Tattva Boddha, does it mean that Maya is Shakti, one of the Shakti of Shaktiman that you mentioned sometime back earlier? So should I interpret what you're saying that, okay, there is, I mean, just to use some, very simple words, there is somebody who has some power, and that power is called Maya. And through that Maya, these basic elements came in the particular order. Is that how I should read it?
So the only difference I'll say is not through that Maya. That Maya is the one which is projecting everything.
Okay.
So Brahman is not doing it through Maya. Maya is the one which is doing it using the for the energy or the forces from Brahman. That's the only difference I'll say. But yeah, what you said is right.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hey, Alpana, I had another question.
Yeah.
So you're taking this from the Taittiriya Upanishad, right? So what I've heard Swamiji say is that, different Upanishads have different theories of creation. They'll keep mixing up the orders and all that. And so don't worry about the order and don't worry about, all these various theories, because now we have a periodic table, which is not 5 elements, it's 108, but it's just the concept. Try to get the concept on Maya, and then, like you said, Maya doing all these things with the, projecting the elements and the universe and everything. That's the way I've understood it, but I just wanted your thoughts on that.
Absolutely. Where did the snake come from in the rope?
Yeah.
Even the 108 or 114 elements is also not right.
Yeah.
Because it is a projection, it is an appearance, it is kalpit. That's why there is no consistency in Upanishad. Each Upanishad uses one, and that was the first right? For jigyasa nivritti, for the curiosity. How has this come into play? There is one theory which is used by, each Upanishad uses a theory, and then it does apvad of that it is all mixed. So you just keep going back to the example. Where did the snake, who was the cause of that snake? Where are snake's parents? How long has it lived? Where was he born? There is no snake.
Yeah.
Right?
No, thank you. I just was validating my own thinking, just making sure. Okay.
Yeah, so you're absolutely right. So the disparity is because it is not real. If this world was real, there would have been only one process, and that would have been consistent in all the Upanishad. Because this world is not real, it is mithya. Some theory is used to satisfy the curiosity. Once you get it, and then the apvad is done. And it is something which is a little bit more believable, that this is how, yes, it would have happened.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah,
sorry, this is called the Adhyarupa Apavada method, right? Adhyarupa you create, and then Apavada you negate.
Yeah, superimposition.
So which means superimposition and then negation. The superimposition is the Visishta Advait, right? They stop with superimposition, and Advait do the Apavad also. That is how I have understood. Adhyarupa is Visishta Advait. They stop with that. Okay, they don't go for a Nirguna Brahman. They only go for a Saguna Brahman. But the Advaitians negate the entire thing and go for a Nirguna Brahman also. Right?
Yeah, so even Dvaitins, even Sankhya yogis, they all believe in superimposition. Meaning they don't call it superimposition, they call it real creation. That's the big difference. We call it superimposition. For them, it is a real creation. That something is really produced. That's why they call it as parinam. They don't call it as superimposition.
So the all attributes come from one reality, which is the substance. They stop with that.
Correct. For them, for Vishishtadvaitins, etc., Prakriti is real. That's the biggest difference. We started with Maya, which is not real.
Correct.
So that's the huge difference. Hence, we call it superimposition and apvad. They will only do the creation. And then the argument is, why will Upanishad talk about creation if there was no creation?
Understood.
Hey, Alpana, can I ask my next question? Your slide, I was just reading through the slide. You talk about what the sattvic part creates and what the rajasic part creates. And you left out the tamasic part. Just going to ask if there is something in the following slides that covers that.
Correct. Because that is what will create the whole universe. The tamasic part. This is all if you notice, this is all the subtle. So this is still the subtle. So these are subtle elements. These are not the elements we see. So I'm not going in detail, but all the sattvic portion of these elements will create the antahakaran together. And from each individual ones, the organs of perception are created from the Sattva Guna. And from the combined Rajogun, pranas are created. And from each individual Rajogun are the senses of action created. Because Rajogun is Kriya, it's action-based. So that's how they are created. And then each of these elements also have their devtas. But I think we can skip that part. It's like Chakshu's devta is Agni, and which, so you will
Surya.
need, yeah, these different parts. So, so I think, yeah, just wanted to say that, see, each indriya, the sense organ, the organs of perception, each one comes from one element respectively. So say from, I'll just take example of Akash. So Akash ka gun is Shabd, the sound. So from the sound, the organ of perception will be to hear the sound, so it's ear. And when you hear something, you respond back. So Vak Indriya is the action, organ of action. So that's how from Rajogun, the action organ will come, and from Satogun, the how you perceive that particular gun or attribute that will come. And from the combined one, that is why man can operate with all the 5 types. So Antahakaran can deal with all 5 types of perception. So that's how the Satogun and Rajogun are segregated.
How do you explain eye, feet, and all that? Okay, you got something.
Sorry? Which one?
No, what you were saying that for when you hear something through the ear, you will respond through speech, right? I was wondering if there is a similar correlation for the fire element where
because you see something, you want to go and get it. When you touch something, you want to grasp it, so it's hands. When you see something, there's a desire to go nearer. So that is how the feet organ of action will come. And similarly, from the taste is more of the reproductive organ, the pleasure that comes from that. And then from nose is the upastha, the excretory organ. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, so then Antahakaran, to go through the combined Sattva part, it creates the Antahakaran. Now, Antahakaran has 4 functions based upon which it is called Manas. Manas is for Sankalp and Vikalp. It's the function because of which we waver. We create options, we vacillate. There are likes and dislikes, there is doubting. So that is the one which creates options and pros and cons thinking. Then the buddhi is the one which decides or takes a decision. Then ahankar it's the identifying faculty. It is also known as appropriating function. So when you say even somebody else is that person, you're appropriating an identity that is done by your ahankar. And then chitta is remembering faculty, where where all the memories are stored. So all these functions are of antahakaran. And then pran are the physiological functions. So pran is the respiratory one. Interestingly, there's a place where they live. So the pran lives in the hriday. So, and then apan is the excretory system. It lives in kidney. Then vyan is the circulatory system. It lives in the whole body. Saman is the digestive system. It lives in the nabhi kshetra. So they've identified where their position is. So very close to, where those organs, etc. are. And then udan is the emergency response, or at the time of death, what takes the body. That's the udan. So these 5 are prana. They are formed with the combined rajogun of all the. So that's why 5 elements and 10 organs of perception plus action plus 4 Antahakaran and 5 pranas. These are the 24 tattva that Srini was mentioning. Okay, now comes so we've taken care of Satogun and Rajogun of all the elements. Now what happens to the Tamogun, which Uday was asking? So there's a process called Panchikaran. What is Panchikaran? It's a chemical mixture. So when it needs to be mixed in a particular proportion, that is known as Panchikaran. Without Panchikaran, we can't see any of the elements. Like Akash doesn't have any roop, so you cannot see then Akash. Similarly, Vayu will not have a roop, so how will you see Vayu? So I've just drawn it just by hand, that if you take the 5 elements, you break it into 2 halves. So keep 1 half to itself. So A is Akash, B is Vayu, C is Tej, D is Jal, and E is Prithvi. 1 second, Satya. I'll just go through this and in the second half, make it into 4 parts and give it to others. So like Akash covers these parts. 1 will go to Vayu, 2 will go to Tej, 3 will go to Jal, and 4 will go to Prithvi. So this is the Panchikaran process. This is a particular proportion in which all of them are mixed. So these are the elements which then are used to create our bodies and this whole perceptible world. That's coming from the tamogun of these 5 elements. Okay. Yes, Satya.
No, so just a doubt actually. In the previous slides, when you talked about from those 5 elements, each of these sattvic organs as well. I mean, sattvic ones and rajasic ones that get created. So we are still talking about not at the stula level, but at the sukshma level, right? So it is.
These are all subtle elements.
So when you say ear, so we are not talking about the physical ear, we are talking about the hearing capability. Is that what we are referring to?
Absolutely. Actually, the golak, which we call the place where they stay, what we see, I mean, ear everybody can have. They may not have the hearing capability. So that's the Shrotra Indriya we talk about, which may function, which may not function. Yes, the capability, you rightly said. Yes, it is at the subtle level.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
Yeah. And then he briefly touches upon Jeev and Ishvara. So what is Jeev and what is Ishvara? So now the Maya that we spoke about. So Maya is actually, if you combine all the Sato Gun, which is available, the one which takes that as its Upadhi, with the Brahman and the reflection falling in that, because it's a Satogun Pradhan, that unit, if you combine those 3, is the definition of Ishvara. So I repeat, you take all the Satogun, that is what we call as Maya.
When you say all the Satogun, you're saying Satogun of the 5 elements or no? You're taking
everything.
All. Okay.
It's outside of elements as well. All the Satogun you take, that is the avidya, that is the Karan of everything, and that is the causal body of Ishvara. So Ishwar is actually just the cosmic subtle body. Cosmic causal body, not subtle body, causal body. So that's a entire Satogun you take, that is Maya. The Brahman in which that Satogun is, and the reflection, that is known as Ishvara. Similarly, now this Satogun, you take little Satogun, mix it with a little bit of Rajogun and Tamogun. You take that unit, which is still Satogun Pradhan, but it has some element of Rajogun and Tamogun, that and the Brahman it occupies, which is known as Kutastha, and the reflection that falls on it. So that is a Jiva. Now you can imagine there is infinite Satogun. Infinite combinations are possible where you have little Satogun and mixed with very little some tamogun and rajogun, that becomes our causal body. Each individual jiva's causal body is that. So you can see now that our satogun is part of the whole satogun that Maya is. So that is where Vishishta Advaitins derive that Jeev is a ansh of Ishvara. So in that aspect. So that is our causal body. Okay.
So when you say, Ishwar is the, it's all Satguna put together. So, it doesn't include other gunas, right? We're talking about only.
Manu, you need to go and mute it. Yeah, thank you.
So sorry.
I was up early this morning. I apologize.
No problem. Yeah. No, I was just asking that, the Sattva, so Ishwar is basically all the Sattvagun put together, right? But it is untouched by any other gunas. Whereas when it comes to the Jiva, so you take a part of that Sattvagun and then mix it with the other gunas, and then on the medium of, there is an RC also there, and that becomes the Jiva.
Yeah.
So, where are the two gunas coming from?
No. So this is the upadhi of the causal body. Causal body is mainly satoguni. We also have subtle body and the gross body. So all the tamogun will come in the gross body. All the rajogun will be used in the subtle body for the pran and for all the actions and all the activity that will happen around. So that is where those gunas will be used.
So the gunas themselves came from Maya. When Maya was created, it was created along with the three gunas, right? Alpana?
Maya is three gunas.
Maya is three gunas, yeah.
Yes.
So, yeah, so Sakuba, so when Maya was there were three gunas. To your question, where did the other gunas come from?
Actually, Prakriti is the better word to use. Maya, but it's used interchangeably. Maya is the Satogun Pradhan because that's the blueprint of everything, right? That's the intelligent force because it is Satogun Pradhan. That's the Prakriti which has all the three gunas. If that makes it clearer. Yeah.
Satya, can I answer that? Sakuba. See, for Ishvara, it is a very, very clear mirror, mirror without any blemishes. But for a Jiva, it is a mirror with a lot of dirt on it. So that is why it is not able to reflect the entire Sattva Guna. There is a bit of Sattva, Rajas and Tamas for a Jiva. But for a Ishvara, it is a very, very clean mirror. So the entire OC gets reflected to RC. This is how I have understood this.
Yeah,
so
that's
the
true.
mirror, which is the reflective medium.
Yeah. No, absolutely. The other thing is, so these are upadhis of Brahman. So we need to understand that first. So the person who has the title is Brahman. It is me who has the title of a mother or a daughter or a friend or a colleague. So those upadhis are different with which I am known. But in the same way, it is the same Brahman which has the upadhi of Ishvara with pure Satogun. It's the same Brahman which has the upadhi of Jiva with little Satogun, and so many upadhis of Jivas with this thing. So that's where there's no difference between Ishvara and Jiv at the Brahman level, because it's the upadhi of same Brahman. So I think we tend to think that I am the Jiva who has underlying Brahman, but I am really the Satoguna mixed with Rajogun and Tamogun. That's not the way to see. The way to see is I am Brahman, and through this body and mind, I am playing this role. Brahman is, or I'm experiencing this world. That's the way it's used in all the texts, that it's the Brahman which is playing this role through this Jiva attire. This is the Brahman which is playing the role of Ishvara using Ishvara attire. So there's no difference between different people. These are different upadhis of the same Brahman. So that's the crux of this whole slide, actually.
Understood.
Hey, you said something about causal body. Can you repeat that, Alpana? You said
yeah, so we'll get it. So we were doing that Sthula Sharir, Sukshma Sharir, and causal body, right? So at causal level, that means it is there even when there is pralaya. So the causal body remains. And causal body is what? Is the avidya. So this satogun mixed with little some tamogun and rajogun is usually called as avidya. And the primary satogun combined one at the cosmic level is known as Maya. So Maya is the causal body of, which is Ishvara itself is actually the causal body. Jeev, which is known as Prag, is the causal body of each individual. So Vyashti and Samashti. So at the individual level, there is little satogun interspersed with the rajogun and tamogun. And here there is Ishvara, which is the upadhi jivas give to the combined satogun. And because we have
combined satogun, sorry.
So that is the Maya. That becomes the causal body of God or the cosmic being. And that is known as Ishvara. So Ishvara is always the causal form. That's why Ishvara we say is Nirgun. And then it has forms of Narayan, Shiva, or Brahma. Right?
Can you go through this written part a little bit? What is the structure of this, please?
Yeah. One second. Actually, yeah, not much is left. I was thinking a lot is there. So, okay. So, because this is a big confusion, right? There is Ishvara and then there is a Jiva. So there's a table that I came across, which I really liked. So what's the difference between where is the place Ishvara lives and where is the place where Jeev lives? So Ishvara is in Avyakrit Maya. Avyakrit is unmanifested. When there was no creation. So that whole cosmic Maya, when it was together, which is the intelligent cause of this universe, right? Which is the one which says, Jab ichha hui ki eko ham bahusyami. So that unit which gets that is Ishvara, which is the causal body, which is the cause of this entire universe. So Avyakrit Maya is where it was not manifested. Whereas Jeev has three places to live. In the Sthul body, we say our Atma lives in our eyes because most of our transaction, it happens through eyes. That's the biggest, it's hardest to overcome. So that is where they say is the place where the Atma lives. During the dream state, which is where the subtle body is the one which is it doesn't have a gross body, so the subtle body is acting. The place it lives is, there's a Hita Nadi in the neck where the dreams appear. That is the place of the subtle body ka Jeev. And at a cosmic level, the Hridaya is the Desh. So the Hervidya, the Hridaya Akash, you might have heard in different Upanishad. So Jeev has three places where it lives. In the causal body, it lives in Hridaya. In subtle body, it lives in the Kant. So there's a Hita Nadi where the dreams appear. And in the Jagrat Avastha, in this waking state, in the Sthul body, it lives in the eyes. Dakshin Netre, actually, is specifically there are many Puran where also these stories come. So it is where the Desh is. So where is the Desh? Then Kal. So Ishwar has three things. It does Srishti, Sthiti, and Pralay. For us, it is Jagrat, Sushupti, and Swapna. So these are the Kal. Vastu is Ishwar has Satogun, Rajogun, Tamogun. Those three are its materials. And Jeev has Sthul, Sukshma, and Karan. Then Ishwar is Sarvashaktiman, Sarvagya, Vyapak, Ek, Swadhin, Samarth, Paroksh, Maya, Ubhay. And Jeev is Alpashakti, Alpagya, Parichinna, Nana, Paradhin, Asamarth, Aparoksh, Vidya. So very interesting was when I came across this. Ishwar by nature is Paroksh. Paroksh is, it can never be experienced. And Jeev is the one which is aparoksh because we can see different Jeev, we can see ourselves. So that's by design. Kyunki agar Ishwar ko aparoksh bana dete and we can see Ishwar, we would all be complaining directly and there'll be a long queue in front of the Ishwara to, you haven't done it this way, you haven't done it this way, etc., etc. So it's by design. And then it gives the definition. Ishwar is Maya plus reflected consciousness plus the, so OC, RC plus the RM is Maya. In case of Jeev, OCRC plus RM is the Avidya. And then different bodies are called, for Ishvara, they're called Virat, Hiranyagarbha, and it's called Avyakrat or even Ishwar. In Jeev, it is called Sthul, Sukshma, Karan. And Abhimani, what the person is known as is Vaishvanar, Sutratma, Antaryami. Sutratma is also Hiranyagarbha. And for Jeev, it is Vishwa, Tejas, and Prag. Once we go through the bodies, I think it will become, at least the names will become clearer. But I just put this for referring later on because I'll share this thing, that these are the main differences between. But I think what we need to take away from this entire slide is that the difference is only due to Upadhi, the titles, and the only cause of birth, death, cycle to know oneself different from Brahman is because we think we are different from Ishwar. Once we know that it's not. What am I doing? Okay. Rajesh, do we continue for maybe 10 minutes or?
I'm good. I think if we can get to a logical conclusion, I think that will be very nice.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, I'll continue then. So I think few things I wanted to cover are that there are three states, right? So the Jagrat state is when you see everything that is made by Tamogun, which you can perceive. That is where we have this gross body. Now, this gross body is the house of experience. This is where the experiences take place. And then subtle body is made up of all the subtle elements that we spoke about. That is where the actual experience happens. So this stool body is the house, and the experiencer is actually the experiencer, and the karta, the doer, is the subtle body. Okay, so that is mainly in the man. And causal body is when all of us go back to the same state. So there's no difference between, because there are infinite number of jiva, because they have different that unit of satogun with rajogun and tamogun. But at causal level, we are all the same. We all go back into the seed state, and it's undifferentiated. Yeah.
It's avidya. Yeah.
Yes, avidya.
Okay.
So that's the
Awesome.
deep sleep state, right? So similar corresponding to each. So in the Jagrat, we have Sthul, Sukshma, and Karan, all three Shariras are there, because it's not that you can just have a gross body, right? Whereas in the subtle body, during the sleep time, we have the subtle body and the causal body. And in deep sleep, we only have the causal body. Okay, so these are the two avasthas and two sharir. Now, sthul sharir is known as Vishwa. Sukshma sharir is known as Tejas. So, Tejas is the upadhi of Brahman with the subtle body. Similarly, Vishwa is the upadhi of Brahman with the gross body. And Prag is the upadhi. So these are the names you'll come across, and hence I'm trying to mention them because in a lot of Upanishads and all these names are thrown. So similarly, so these are at the individual level. At cosmic level, we have Ishwar or Antaryami, which is the causal body. For the subtle body, it's known as Hiranyagarbha. And they also call it as Sutratma. And for the gross body, it is the Virat. Now, Virat is the sum total of all our bodies and the universe that you see. So that's why anything that happens to it, Ishwar knows, because it is Ishwar's body. Similarly, in the Hiranyagarbha, it is the sum total of all our subtle bodies. So whatever happens in our mind is happening in Ishwar's mind. So Ishwar knows about it. And for the causal bodies, there's no difference because there's no differentiating factor. So it's the same for Ishwar and for different Jeev. Now, in dreams, when we
no, one second, Alpana, you said the causal body for Ishvara is pure sattva? No. Oh, no.
Yeah,
What?
it is. It is. It is. You're right.
Yes.
So it is Maya. And for
Okay.
us, it is avidya. But
Avidya. Huh.
it is in unmanifested state. Even though, so it is almost like you have an ocean and you take multiple pots, fill them with water, and you submerge them in. So the water can go in and out of all the pots, right? So it becomes one ocean. When it is manifested, they all come out, the pots. So those pots then become our subtle bodies. So they all go into literally in a seed state. So that's why there's no differentiating factor. So the
When they
differentiating
come out, they become our causal bodies, you mean to say, or subtle bodies?
they become actually subtle bodies. So that is what the manifested state is. So that manifested state goes into an unmanifested state. Hence, there's no difference in the causal bodies of Ishwar. So there's no difference even at causal body. Forget about, at the Brahman level. We are same Ishwar and Jiva.
So
Uday,
is it
sorry.
just one causal body or they're separate?
Mind is subtle body.
Sorry,
So the subtle
Alpana, I was just
body.
asking if there are separate causal bodies or just one causal body
So
for each jiva.
in the manifested state, the causal body that we have are different. But when the manifestations go away, even when we go into the deep sleep, when our body and mind, it resolves, then the causal body that is left is just in a seed state, which is not different for anyone. They're the same.
It is in the potential form, right?
It's in potential form, yeah. That's the right word. Correct.
But they're not separate seed bodies.
No,
It's just one.
apparently they're not, but it still knows internally what each one should, like how the seed grows, some part becomes trees, leaves, etc., roots, etc., right? Similarly, it knows which jiva will get what part of it. But because it is in seed state, it is all the same.
Okay.
Sorry, who else was saying something? I missed it.
Alpana, sorry to ask another question. In the deep sleep state, the causal body is also resolved, right? There is no causal body at all, right? It is also
There is
resolved.
causal body because we are in avidya. We said we didn't know what happened. If it was not avidya, then we would have known that it is Brahman. That's why deep sleep, you have causal body, but it is avidya.
So which means when we wake up from a deep sleep, now we said that we have a good sleep. So that feeling that I had a good sleep when all the Sukshma Stula and the causal body is resolved, which means the Turiya state is only explaining that, no, that I was in a sleep, which
No,
means
no,
only
no.
that was active during this sleep.
No, it wasn't Turiya, it was Karan Sharir. It's a causal body, because causal body experiences Ananda. The moment experience comes, it was a reflected consciousness of reflected Ananda.
Okay,
If it is a reflected Ananda,
understood.
there has to be a medium, and the medium is avidya. And when you get up, you say, I slept happily, but I didn't know anything. So that didn't know anything
Okay.
is the agyan which is there. So causal
Is
bodies are
the avidya, causal body is avidya. Okay, understood.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. So these were the Sthul, Sukshma and Karan, and the Jagrat, Swapna and Sushupti Avastha. And then in the Panchakosh, we have Annamaya Kosh, which is formed from all the Anna, right? Now, very interestingly, the text says, so our body is made up of, what is it made up of? It is made up of muscles, fat, blood, haddi, bones, and then it has urine, it has feces. Oh, this is what it is made up of, and we call it beautiful, and we protect it, and all of that. And it comes from there and it goes back there. So basically trying to get vairagya to it. So that is the Annamaya Sharir, which is happening from the, so even the semen and the egg, they're all created by what we eat. So it comes from Anna, it goes back into that. So that's the cycle. That is the Annamaya Sharir. Annamaya Kosh, another way to understand is whatever the doctors can see is Annamaya. Then the second is Pranmaya. So Pranmaya includes the 5 pran that we spoke about, and the
But you changed
5.
your slide. We are not seeing any new slide.
Actually, there is no slide. I was thinking I'll just speak about these.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. Yes.
Yeah. So I'm still doing this one. So just Pranmaya is that one. That's why I said I'll briefly mention, because this we've done multiple times. So Pranmaya is where there are 5 pran and 5 organs of action. Because pran is the one which leads to action. This is the place where we feel hunger, thirst, tiredness, etc. Then Manomaya is man plus 5 senses of perception. So man is the one which gets inputs from all these 5 senses of perception, and then it, along with the chit, it creates those pros and cons and options and present it to the intellect. So the next is Vijnanmaya Kosh, which is buddhi and ahankar plus the 5 senses of perception. So this is where the decisions are taken. So if the mind sees something, it says, oh, I really want it, and then the intellect decides that I want to get it, and then so intellect decides, yes, it should be, we should get it, and then ahankar puts an eye on it, okay, I will get it, and then man operates through the pran and the auction on the senses of action to get it or take that action. And then Anandamaya is when all of these, they are not there. Anandamaya Kosh is pure Agyan, which is the causal body, where we still get the reflection of the Ananda. So when there is no mind to create any dissonance or sankalp or vikalp, when there is pure Anandamaya there, we feel the Ananda because of the capability of avidya to reflect the Anand of Brahman. So these are different koshas, but Atma is different from that, and it is of the nature Satchidanand, which we covered. Then, yeah, so knowledge, yeah, just this is, I think, one of the last slides key. So in Vedas, we have 2 types of statements. One are called Avantar Vakya and one is called Mahavakya. So Avantar Vakya are those which describe Brahman, which tells, oh, Brahman is like this, Atman is Satchidanand, Brahman is Nirvikar, Niravyav, Nirgun. So all the things it describes about Brahman, they are known as Avantar Vakya or secondary Vakya. They give us Paroksha Gyan, that we know that there is something called Brahman. And then Mahavakya is which talks about Jeev and Brahma Aikyam, and they are the ones which give us the Aparoksh Gyan. If we are not getting Aparoksh Gyan, that means the problem is with Mal, Vikshep, and Avaran. So we need to work on those. Now, about the Mahavakya, just a little bit of description that's given here is that words have two powers. So one is, it tells us the Vachyarth, which is the direct meaning. It also tells us implied meaning, which is the Lakshyarth. Now, Lakshyarth or the implied meanings are of three types. One is, the word may describe something by dropping its entire meaning, but just taking what it is indicating. So for example, we give somebody asks, where are the cows? So somebody says cows are in Ganga. Now they are not in Ganga, but what he meant was Ganga ke kinare, on the bank of river Ganga. So that means you drop the entire meaning of the sentence. They are not in Ganga, but they are next to it. So the Lakshyarth here is that you're taking the implied meaning by dropping the entire thing. The second one is you take the meaning, but you add a little bit to it and then get the meaning. Say, somebody says, Lal rang daudta hai. Now, red color cannot run. So you know then that he's talking about the horse, which is of red color. He is running. So you're taking the meaning, but you're adding that red color is referring to the horse of red color. I mean, these are the typical examples that are taken in Sanskrit. So that is the second type of this thing. But the implied meaning which is used in Tattvamasi is the Bhag Tyag Lakshana. That means whichever are the conflicting things, you drop that, and what are non-conflicting things, that you equate. So from Tat and Tvam, the upadhis are conflicting. That is why that slide, I think Jeev and Ishwar was important. You drop those upadhis and you take the Brahman and you equate that at that level. Tat Tvam Asi is true. That you and that Ishwar, you are one and the same at the Brahman level. Also, we can only drop the upadhis because the upadhis are mithya. If they were satya, then you can't. Otherwise, you can equate anything. Oh, this pen is same as the camera. Why? You drop the factors which are not same and you just keep something which is same. But in this particular case, we can drop. So bhaktyag is you can drop those conflicting facts which are not true. So that's why Tattvamasi is explained using bhaktyag lakshana. And I spoke about the paroksh gyan and aparoksh gyan. Paroksh gyan is where the knowledge you get from the secondary statements that there is Brahman, there is something like this. And aparoksh gyan is when you say you are Brahman. So when it is about yourself, you don't need a proof, because for something else to be said, oh, this is not a pen, but it is something else, it's a thermometer, you need to see it and then do it. But if it is about you, and that's where the example of Karn is very, very important. The moment Karn was told that you are not Radhe Putra, you are Kunti Putra, because it was for him, he didn't have to go and do something else to really know it. He knew it immediately. That's why when it is told about us that Aham Brahmasmi, the moment it clears after Bhaktyag Lakshana, we will know it. And that is the Aparoksh Gyan. And then it goes back to that mystery of life is solved. It talks about a little bit of creation and then how these upadhis are mithya. Negate them, the reality is just the same. And you get, so very interesting thing about Vedanta is Vedanta doesn't try to give you security, but it removes all the insecurities. So that is what I think Swami Dayanand always says, that Vedanta is to remove the it's to give you freedom from insecurities, because it says all the insecurities are mithya, they don't exist. So you are not really impacted by anything that's happening around. Like the screen remains untouched even when there is a fire on the screen, etc. This thing. And then it gives emotional shock absorber, insulation, cushion, raincoat, resilient enough not to be shocked by worst tragedy. And it increases efficiency in day-to-day life. When the mind is relaxed without disturbing experiences, one is fully able to apply fully in the task at hand. So these are again verbatim, word to word from Swami P. And then it talks a little bit about Jivan Mukti, where Jivan Mukti is where we know about this while alive. So then there's nothing that can disturb us. We get that Vidyanand. And Videha Mukti is at the end of this life, because it'll talk briefly about karmas. I don't think we need to go into the karma theory. If anybody wants, I think I can cover it in the next session briefly. But how, when there is knowledge, when you know you're not this identity, then what prarabdha, what sanchit karma? Because the sanchit karma and prarabdha belong to this body, not to you. So the Jivan Mukta or the person is freed from all of that. Is that, and that is the Brahmananda Prapti. So that was the essence of Tattva Boddha.
Wonderful, Alpana. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Sorry, I went way over the time.
It was worth going over
Awesome.
the time.
Yeah.
So I think we probably have to maybe get you another 30-minute slot or something to come